on this climate change thing and asking the question, you know, will America wait until it's too late? Because a time will come when it is too late, when humanity is just basically screwed, when the possibility of maintaining something that appears to be civilization starts slipping through our fingers. It has already started happening in North Africa and Central America. We are seeing governments crashing as a result of climate change. All those Syrian farmers in North Syria, where the desert came south over 100 miles, all across North Africa, but in Syria in particular, where the desert came south 100 miles, about 500,000, I believe it was, farmers ended up in Damascus, in the main city in Syria, homeless. And they started protesting, demanding at least food and shelter. And Bashar Assad, the dictator of Syria, his response was to have the police go in and shoot them, which started this uprising, which led to a civil war that, we got involved in and the Russians got involved in because they've got a huge military base there. And you now have a city that's been reduced to rubble. You've got, a culture that is in crisis. And it's not just Syria. Tunisia, where the whole thing started with that street vendor setting himself on fire because the price of wheat had gone through the roof, again, because of climate change. That's the one democracy that came out of the Arab Spring. Egypt lost their democracy as a result of the Arab Spring. They're now a military dictatorship. The one democracy left, and they're tottering on the edge because of all this pressure. The global warming is hitting those areas that are more or less around the equator and between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, basically. But it is moving. It is moving north and south, but for our concerns here in North America and Europe, it's moving north relentlessly. It's going to be 103 here in Portland tomorrow. And the big concern now is this AMOC, the AMOC, the Atlantic Meridional, I don't know how to pronounce it, overturning circulation system, the AMOC. This is what you and I generally refer to as the Gulf Stream, the water that flows up, it starts off the coast of Southeast Asia, goes down south of South Africa, comes up along the east coast of South America, Central America, and then, produces the Gulf, warms the Gulf of Mexico and goes up the east coast of the United States and then goes out into the ocean, and just south of Greenland it sinks. And now Greenland, the glaciers are melting and pouring fresh water into it, and it's causing it to collapse or to be on the verge of collapsing. And Science Daily today, a new study published in Nature Climate Change says the major North Atlantic Ocean current, to which the Gulf Stream also belongs, may have been losing stability in the course of the last century. It's currently at its weakest in more than 1,000 years. Nick Boers from the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research says, and I quote, "The loss of dynamic stability would imply that the AMOC has approached its critical threshold, beyond which is a substantial and in practice likely irreversible transition to the weak mode could occur." Are we going to wait until it's too late? If the Gulf Stream shuts down, all bets are off. Everything changes in both the north and southern hemisphere. Weather around the world will completely and radically change. And animals, plants, and humans who are adapted to the particular climate where they live are suddenly going to be living in a completely different climate. And that is going to be insanely disruptive. The headline of my daily rant today at HartmannReport.com is "Climate Change. Will America wait until it's too late?" And the point I keep making, the IPCC came out with this report yesterday, and the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, said this moment represents a code red for humanity. He said there's no time for delay and no room for excuses. And so the Democrats are proposing a $3.5 trillion bill in the United States, Congress, right now it's in the Senate, that will go a long way toward mitigating climate change while at the same time strengthening our social safety net as more and more of us are coming under attack from climate change. And it's wrecking neighborhoods and stressing power systems and all kinds of things. And what do the Republicans have to say? Nope, we're not going to have anything to do with that. Sorry, forget it. Ain't going to happen. And we've got a couple of Democrats that we're waiting to see where they're going to fall on this thing. Sinema, Manchin, maybe Coons and Carper, maybe Feinstein. I mean, you know, we're just waiting to see which of these Democrats are going to stand up and say, yes, we're with the people. We need to do something about climate change. $3.5 trillion is a drop in the bucket compared to the cost of climate change to the United States. And we need to change our infrastructure and make it more resilient and less carbon emitting. The IPCC report says that we can burn another 500 billion tons of carbon worldwide before we hit this 1.5 degree absolute wall. And once you hit that wall, all bets are off. And we're burning fossil fuels. We're putting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere right now at the rate of a little over 50 billion tons a year. So 500 billion tons is 10 years, and then it's got to go to zero. Well, there's no way in hell we're going to go to zero in 10 years, which means we need to start reducing dramatically. If we can cut by 50% over the next 2 or 3 years, then, you know, we can get to zero over 12, 15 years, maybe. But it's going to literally take a multi-trillion-dollar investments here in the United States. This is not something you and I can do by you know, walking to work or riding our bicycles or turning off our light bulbs or replacing incandescent bulbs with LEDs or even buying an electric car. This is not something that you and I can take care of. Yes, we should, you know, try to modify our lifestyle and reduce our carbon footprint to whatever extent is reasonable. But it's not about, and by the way, and I guarantee you that the right-wingers and the Republicans are all saying, oh, yeah, well, you know, Al Gore flies in his own private plane. How dare he? You know, that kind of stuff. How big is you know, fill in the blanks house? When actually the issue is that we're still subsidizing the fossil fuel industry to the tune of over $1.2 trillion worldwide and over $300 billion a year here in the United States. That's our tax dollars that we give to the fossil fuel industry, that we give to the fossil fuel billionaires. And we are not taking that kind of money or anything even close to it and throwing it in a major way in the United States into programs that would stop climate change. We need to solarize every house in America. We need to put electric charging stations all over the place. We need to replace outdated power plants and centralized, you know, power generation stations with distributed power generation. We need to have neighborhoods producing their own electricity through rooftop solar and neighborhood, load balancing systems. None of this is technology that is impossible. It's already in place in large part in countries like Germany. I mean, they started on this literally 20 years ago. And they're shutting down their last nuclear power plant this year or next year, I believe, within the next couple of years in any case. Going entire, you know, I mean, this is just major, going to solar. We can do it here too.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Only the Republicans and a couple of Democrats who are taking money from the fossil fuel billionaires would get on board and stop just looking at their money.